Selecting an insurance provider for your business is a big decision.
We know how important your company is to the community.
Alford & Associates can manage your insurance. It's our job.
Alford & Associates, benefiting your employees and protecting your business.
Welcome to Louisiana and Beyond. Tonight we continue our exploration of the contentious issue of FEMA and the skyrocketing cost of flood insurance.
And some of our local coastal and business leaders weigh in on the matter, including Stevie Smith, Dwayne Bourgeois, Ben Bordelon, Corey Keefe, and Keith Guidry.
And in our featured guest segment, we'll hear from Billy Joe Pellegrin from Edison, Chouest Offshore and its affiliated companies, and their emphasis on pushing the boundaries of technology.
The issue of flood insurance impacts each and every one of us, and these are the local experts who forecast where they think we're heading in the months and years to come.
All of this and more coming up on Louisiana and Beyond.
Louisiana and Beyond is brought to you in part by Edison Chouest Offshore, Bollinger Shipyards, Crosby Tugs LLC, Grand Isle Shipyard, Nichols State University, and Sea Level Construction.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
In a world where you can choose to be anything, who do you choose to be? At Nichols State University, with over 70 distinct degree programs, we believe our students can be anything. Be an artist, a chef, a journalist, an educator, a lifesaver. But no matter what you choose to be a colonel. Be more at Nichols State University.
Edison Chouest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Chouest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
Welcome back to Louisiana and Beyond. Last week's episode provided the backstory and sets the stage for the opinions and predictions we hear tonight from our local coastal experts on the matter of FEMA and flood insurance.
The skyrocketing cost of flood insurance, our leaders agree, is one of the major factors affecting the economics of South Louisiana. And Stevie Smith tells us those flood insurance decisions in Washington sometimes defy logic.
The logic of it gets to me sometimes. You know, and if you take Lafourche Parish, where they haven't had a significant flood event in Lower Lafourche probably since the mid-'80s. So it's 2025, so that's 40 years. That's beyond the life of a regular mortgage, right? So in that time period, we haven't had significant flooding of any flooding in the South Lafourche levee district specifically. So how can you say that flood insurance needs to go up in those areas? Anybody that's paid flood insurance premiums in those areas has been a net benefit to the program because you've been paying insurance premiums and you haven't been taking out claims. Okay, so that the math, the logic doesn't add up right there. The other thing that gets frustrating to me, and you can apply that to Terrebonne, although the history is a little bit more recent. If you take Rita as a benchmark where we had 10, 11,000 homes flood in Lafourche and Terrebonne, well, since that time we haven't had a significant event. So that's going on 20 years, which is getting close to the life of a mortgage. So if you've been having folks in Terrebonne pay flood insurance premiums for the last 20 years, technically that should be a plus to the program because they've been paying premiums in and no claims have been coming out. So I don't get why those premiums need to keep going up if that's the way the math works, okay? The other thing that really frustrates me about flood insurance requirements is we require folks to build to a required elevation now, okay? So if you build a house in a part of the parish where you got to build it to a certain elevation, a 6, and you do so because the parish requires you to do it. That's great. Why are we doing that? To reduce the risk of flooding. Even when you build at a 100-year elevation, you have to buy flood insurance because you're technically in a flood zone. That doesn't make sense to me because if I'm in the flood zone but I'm above the 100-year elevation, then technically I'm not supposed to flood. So why am I being forced to apply flood insurance at a very high rate when I'm already at what you tell me is the 100-year elevation? That the logic there escapes me, okay? And that seems to be a double penalty we're paying. We're telling you that you have to elevate your home to a certain elevation to get out of the floodplain, and then I'm gonna make you buy flood insurance even when I've just told you you're out of the floodplain. That's very frustrating to me.
They're correct that FEMA is not recognizing our flood protection as it exists right now with other things. We can't tell you why because they're not sharing the stuff with us. We got to the point where we felt we had no option because we couldn't do it to talk to then Attorney General Jeff Flannery and Liz Merrill was the Solicitor General. So you got to sue them. This is the only way we're going to get the information. We still don't have the information. Even in this administration, they're not releasing the information. So we don't know why. We know that they had claimed that they were getting a lot of information from levies from the Corps of Engineers. Actually, in one of the documents they released, they called the methodology document, it said, you know, thank God we had the Corps of Engineers who, and they gave a title of a document and a date and put it in italics like it was a real document. So we called the Corps and said, hey, can you send us a document? And they said, there's no document. I mean, this is a deceitful organization when it comes to flood insurance, right? I think entirely they picked a number and they worked backwards, right? They said, this is what insurance needs to cost so that we can get out of this hole, everything else be damned, right? I mean, we do know that in their methodology, each state has a base rate. So you're gonna tell me that my flooding risk is the same from Shreveport to the mouth of the river, from Monroe to Cameron? It doesn't make any sense. So no, it's not being calculated. When we pressed FEMA on, hey, why, you know, we went asked the Corps about this, they don't have that document, and they gave us a gibberish answer, and then a week later, if you looked at the same document online, that line's all magically gone. You know, so it wasn't just that they were deceitful, they were intentionally deceitful, and they're still being deceitful. And what's our win? To go and continue to work with an agency that's not improving, or to maybe go to the private sector? But we've got to encourage the private sector. We've got to have not just the levee districts, but we've got to have all of the industry folks calling on the private sector to say, hey, come write us, but recognize the benefits that we've got on the ground.
But yeah, having that front line protection is huge. I think that in turn is going to help us address some of the insurance problems we're having. But I think we all know some of the insurance issues that we're having here, not only from the business side, but more importantly from, you know, the employee side and your home insurance, et cetera, auto insurance, all of those things. what is going to make Louisiana competitive is getting all of those things fixed. And that's an important piece for us. So a lot of times, when we're dealing with post-hurricane issues, we have some battle scars in dealing with hurricanes, but as a business, if you're looking forward, it would be nice to be able to say we have more protection than we had before. We shouldn't have the amount of severity of damage that we've had on our workforce and our communities going forward, because we are doing things that protect it. And with that comes, I think, the ability for us not only to retain our current workforce, but recruit people in. Because that's some of the stuff, us being a big business, in multi-states, and what can we do to attract even outside people to move down here? One of the first things I get is, man, y'all got high insurance, both on the auto side, on the homeowner side, taxes. I know that's something else that Jeff's focused on. What can we do from a tax standpoint? What can we do to enhance the quality of life in our region and area?
And coming up later in the program, we'll hear from Dwayne Bourgeois, as well as Corey Keefe and Keith Guidry on this controversial subject.
And coming up right after the break, Martin, we'll hear from Billy Joe Pellegrin of Edison, Chouest Offshore and their quest for technology and the company's various affiliates, including 2 other sponsors of our program. We'll be right back.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
Sea Level Construction is a heavy civil contractor that provides turnkey services for the industrial and marine industries. From building large-scale infrastructure to installing the foundation for expansion projects, Sea Level and its family of companies offer a wide range of capabilities, including driven piles, drilled deep foundations, structural fabrication, structural concrete, marine construction, barge maintenance and repair, site work development, heavy equipment repair services, and electrical services. Call Sea Level Construction to set the foundations for your next big project.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
Edison Chouest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Chouest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
Now our attention focuses on Edison Chouest Offshore, a powerfully successful company with many affiliates.
And amongst those 19,000 plus employees are the relationships with our other show sponsors, Grand Isle Shipyard and Bollinger Shipyards.
There has been a marriage, and so those families have grown up knowing each other for decades. And so when you look at the Chouest organization, it's well over 65 years old. The Bollinger and GIS organizations are over 75 years old. And so those families have grown up on the same values that the Chouest family has grown up. So there have always been, a partnership and a liking to those companies. But over the last 10 or so years, we've invested into those companies as well and became partners with the Bollinger Group as well as the Grand Isle Shipyard Group. And so, Even though those companies still operate under their same names and same umbrellas today, they're part of the Chouest organization, part of the Chouest family of companies as we constitute it. And so, as we spoke about earlier, it gives more variety and width to the offerings that we have. So now when we're talking about building new vessels for the government or building icebreakers, you have Bollinger who can build these icebreakers, as well as you have the Edison Chouest Offshore Group, who has the history of operating these icebreakers for over 30 years. And the same thing goes on with the GIS family of companies. You know, those guys are working offshore in that environment. They're working on the rigs. And so we're able to support those operations offshore with the vessel operations. And so there's always a tie-in with regards to what services Bollinger and GIS offer to how we can offer subsidiary services or wider service offerings to our clients because of those partnerships. And our clients continually want to deal with less and less subcontractors. And so today, if they can come to the table and deal with just the Chouest family of companies, then they're dealing with a lot less contractors, and we can provide packages to them to make them more efficient in their operations. And so that's the value of the wider family of companies. So, you know, if you take just the engineering component of the Chouest vessels, and so we design, build, own, and operate our own vessels within the Chouest group, but so does Bollinger. And so the reach with the naval architects and the engineers and the draftsmen that they have, as well as the operational experience in their shipyards, you know, how to build these vessels on a commercial scale, definitely combines the vertical integration opportunity we have, as well as the quality of the product that we have. There's no one else in the world that can compete with the amount of knowledge we have in shipbuilding and vessel operations than the Chouest family of companies. So with the innovation and the technology piece, many years ago, we determined that we knew, you know, technology was going to change the way that we operated the vessels. And so probably around 2000 and 2001 timeframe, we started a company called Marine Technologies. That company is today land-based in Mandeville, Louisiana, and ultimately focuses a lot on the integration technology that happens on board our vessels. They focus on the navigation systems, what we call the dynamic positioning systems of our vessels. But they focused in on a lot more than that. And one of the unique things that they did back then was to make sure that all the technology that we were putting on board our vessels was accessible land-based, landside. And so what we can do now is we can see how the vessels are operating. We can determine whether or not they're going to have mechanical failures even before they actually happen. So we're doing a lot of predictive analysis to determine how we can operate those vessels remotely, but ultimately how can we protect the maintenance side of those vessels remotely as well, in predicting, you know, when they need overhauls or when they need, you know, oil changes by doing oil analysis and sampling and looking at bearings and temperatures and PSI ratings and all. And so all this has to do with the technology and the foresight that the Chouest family and Mr. Gary had, you know, back 20 years ago. And so what that's allowed us to do today is to open up remote monitoring centers, you know, here in Louisiana as well as globally. And so we can see what's going on with our vessels regardless of where they're at in the world. We can help them be more efficient, be more effective, and also plan their logistical routing. So ultimately providing a service to our client that was not available many, many years ago. It is groundbreaking, and it was the foresight and the forethought to make sure that we put in the equipment that was capable of being managed and looked at remotely so long ago that now gives us that ability to do that. Probably one of the most unique aspects of what allows us to do it, creates a digital twin of the boat. And so shoreside, we can see the boat, we can understand the performance, we know how to load the boat to put more stuff underneath the boat, or below the deck of the boat or above deck of the vessel. We can understand the weather conditions that they're going to be experienced and determine the best path of travel for them to ultimately get to the locations. And so with the digital twinning of our vessels, it definitely gives us a competitive advantage to be more efficient in the way that we operate our vessels. It goes back to that family culture and keeping things, you know, close to home with us as well. There are some regions of the world that we work in, so we definitely have a global presence, but the preference is to work here in Louisiana. You know, it's our, you know, home. It's where our families grew up. The more that we're able to put back in the community, the better we are to protect that community. They're protected from coastal erosion, protected from the hurricanes that we face, you know, by living and working in this environment as well. And so there's thousands of employees we have here in the Tri-Parish area, and we continue to build new companies in this region because we have a lot of faith and trust in the workforce that we have around us. the reason why we look at so many acquisitions is to control our vertical integration, is to control our destiny, you know. So at the end of the day, we want to be able to provide, you know, a quality product or service to our operators and to our customers. And to do that, you have to control your destiny with that. You have to control the service providers for that. So over the years, we've continued to invest in a lot of those companies that are local to this area, whether it be HVAC companies, you know, Sealand Mechanical does air conditioning refrigeration work as well. IMS and International Marine Systems provides a lot of our electrical and technology on board our vessels. And so we continue to invest locally, you know, all storage recovery facilities, just whatever has a component of our vessels and our operations that we can support and control better internally. We continue to grow in that area and can grow through whether it be acquisitions or even our own internal startups.
Edison Chouest Offshore is more than a fleet. We're an interconnected network of vessels, logistics hubs, and a fast-growing workforce of over 19,000 dedicated professionals across the globe. From the United States to Brazil and the Middle East to Southeast Asia, Chouest provides cutting-edge solutions to a worldwide community. And in the face of evolving demands across the industry, we are committed to operating as the best in the world.
At GIS, putting people first has always been our thing. As we always say, our people are our most important assets. With over 20 office locations, we deliver innovative solutions across 4 key markets: energy, industrial, infrastructure, and power. Our 4 main service groups house over 20 service capabilities, supporting projects from start to finish. We're proud of our legacy and even more excited about what's ahead.
Welcome to Bollinger Shipyards. For nearly a century, our family of skilled shipbuilders has driven innovation and excellence, creating some of the world's most advanced vessels. Today, we are at the forefront of our industry and redefining the future of naval warfare. At Bollinger, we turn challenges into opportunities and careers into legacies. Here, you're part of something bigger. Any yard can build a ship. We don't just build ships. Together, we're building the future.
When it comes to marine towing, Crosby Tugs has over 40 years of experience. We have the know-how to safely assist ships into and out of their berths, escort oil tankers quickly and safely, tow ships, respond to fuel spills, and work in extreme conditions. Founded in 1977 by Vinton and Kurt Crosby, we are one of the largest privately owned marine transportation businesses in the industry. If it's on the water, let Crosby be your transporter.
Sea Level Construction is a heavy civil contractor that provides turnkey services for the industrial and marine industries. From building large-scale infrastructure to installing the foundation for expansion projects, Sea Level and its family of companies offer a wide range of capabilities including driven piles, drill deep foundations, structural fabrication, structural concrete, marine construction, barge maintenance and repair, site work development, heavy equipment repair services, and electrical services. Call Sea Level Construction to set the foundations for your next big project.
Welcome back to Louisiana and Beyond. Now we wrap up our 2-week exploration of FEMA and their involvement with the National Flood Insurance Program and its soaring cost here in South Louisiana.
And we conclude our look with 3 of our local coastal leaders sharing their frustration with FEMA and how the over decade-long battle is still far from resolution.
Some days I feel good about it, some days I don't, because we've just been talking about it for too doggone long. I mean, this is not a conversation that started last year. Dwayne and I have been studying this thing since 2012, and it's still not resolved. So what leads me to believe is this is, number one, we got good people who are funding a system to mitigate the risk of FEMA that they're ignoring. Instead of rewarding us for the investment, they're punishing us for the investment, which just makes my blood boil. And fortunately for us, we have an encyclopedia called Dwayne Bourgeois, who's so educated and immersed in how how the National Flood Insurance Program works. And he and I started this at the beginning on our own. And he just took off running with it. I don't have the time to put into it that he does, so he's the expert on that. But it's so important that we were able to petition the Association of Levee Boards to support an advocacy group, which we had for a while, called the Louisiana Flood Risk Coalition. And we did that the Association of Levee Boards funded, because we thought it was only a coastal problem. It's not a coastal problem. The entire state is getting pounded by FEMA because they're not recognizing some of the levee districts in Bossier City, in Tensas Parish, and other places that are non-coastal. And these members of these districts told us, no, we're getting hammered too. Let's get together. So we did that, and we had a real a good effort. But it seems like for as long as we've been doing that, it's just a lot of talk. And, we hear about these little changes here and there, and we hear about FEMA and NFIP and that it's going to be canceled and all of that. I don't know if that's a solution to the problem. We still need flood insurance. How they do that, I don't know.
The crux of it right now is the center, which is the insurance and the cost of insurance. And we go back to, in 2012, a bill called Biggert Waters passed. And in it, our flood insurance rates jumped straight to the roof, right? And everybody freaked out and worked very closely with Steve Scalise's office in what became 2 years later the Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act. Now, in that process, we didn't really fix what they were doing wrong with flood insurance costs, right? There were 1,000 things wrong with how FEMA was operating the flood insurance program, which made it upside down in as far as most of the legislators and congressmen were looking at, right? It owed something like $30 billion to the U.S. Treasury. Now, we can go in that direction, but the bottom line is they see it as an upside down program. I would ask the question, if you were operating a business and you were upside down on your profit margin, what's your choices? You can either cut your expenses and lower your profit on it, or you can try to raise your rates. Well, the only solution FEMA could think of was raising rates, right? And so Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act didn't really correct what they were doing with regards to raising rates, but it did put a limit on the amount that it could be increased on a year-to-year basis. So that went on for a while, but the push for increased rates from the congressmen, who don't want this program to be upside down and are just thinking, well, the only thing is we're obviously not connecting enough rates. It couldn't be that FEMA's operating without efficiency. Let FEMA go into the motion of creating this whole new risk rating 2.0. And that's been our biggest nemesis since then, to the point where we couldn't figure out what they were doing, why they were coming up with these rates. We know they were limited at 18% per year for most folks, but that hurts in a few years, right? 4 years, you're talking about a doubling in your rate. In 7 to 8 years, you're talking about a quadrupling of your rate. And further, we were seeing a total disconnect from where the rates were as compared to what we understood as a risk was, right? Didn't even agree with FEMA. FEMA does not agree with FEMA.
That's one of the things that I just can't understand. The flood insurance that our people have paid. We're the only place that's never flooded since the levee's been there. Why are we still paying those rates? Why are our people still paying those rates? It doesn't make sense to me. And you ask questions and they can't give you real answers. I think it's our congressmen and our rep, and our senators that need to fight for that and push it and see it. So It's big, and I think Morganza will do the same for you guys over here.
And that's it for this 2-week exploration of FEMA and its National Flood Insurance Program.
And coming up next week, we begin our look at the interconnected series of marsh creation projects known as a land bridge.
And as construction is set to begin, our coastal leaders share their excitement about the role it will play in protecting our coast.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again next week on Louisiana and Beyond.
Louisiana and Beyond has been brought to you in part by Edison Chouest Offshore, Bollinger Shipyards, Crosby Tugs LLC, Grand Isle Shipyard, Nicholls State University, and Sea Level Construction.